Easy Eye carefully wiped the dining table, lost in thought about the uneasy tension that filled her home. She stood back and observed the immaculate setting, clean plates, shining cutlery, and elegant tablecloth. These little details were important to her, they kept her mind calm. In the distance, she heard the front door open. Kalu, her husband, returned from work earlier than usual. Easy Eye, he called out, in a tone that usually meant he was either irritated or making demands. She braced herself. Yes, I'm here, she replied gently, emerging from the dining area. Kalu strode in with his usual air of confidence, or arrogance, depending on how one saw it. His suit jacket hung over his arm. He looked around with a critical eye. When their gazes met, she offered him a small, welcoming smile. You won't believe this day I've had, he said, ignoring her smile. Deals falling through, employees messing up. I've decided to hire extra help for the house. Easy Eye tilted her head. More help? But we already have Mrs. Jaja who cooks and cleans. Mrs. Jaja is old and slow, Kalu cut in with a dismissive gesture. I met someone today who needs work. She'll start tomorrow. Easy Eye was taken aback. He never consulted her for decisions like these. Still, she swallowed her protests, knowing how quickly Kalu's temper could flare if challenged. What's her name? She asked. Tari, he said. She'll do errands, cleaning, and whatever else we need. Just show her around once she arrives. Easy Eye nodded, feeling a flicker of annoyance at being blindsided. But it wasn't worth arguing. Over the years, she had learned to pick her battles carefully. After all, with so much tension about their lack of children, the last thing she wanted was another shouting match. The next morning, Tari arrived. She was a young woman of slender build, dressed modestly in a faded blue blouse and black skirt. Her eyes shone with a guarded intelligence that Easy Eye noticed immediately. Easy Eye greeted her warmly, offering a cup of tea before showing her around. This is where we store cleaning supplies, Easy Eye said, opening the cupboard in the hallway. And if you ever need anything, just come to me. Tari nodded politely, her soft-spoken voice expressing gratitude. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your kindness. From across the living room, Kalu hovered, an air of impatience swirling around him. He gave Tari one quick glance, as though she were a piece of furniture he'd just purchased. Then, dismissing both women, he retreated to his study. Don't mind him, Easy Eye whispered apologetically. He's under a lot of pressure. Tari smiled sympathetically. I understand. Thank you, madam. Despite the tension, Easy Eye felt a surprising calm when talking to Tari. There was something about the new maid that eased her heart, a certain warmth in her eyes. But she couldn't imagine just how important Tari's arrival would become, or how her mere presence would soon unravel hidden truths that would shake the family to its core. A week passed. Tari settled into her new role quietly. She performed her chores efficiently, rarely complaining. In the meantime, the tension between Kalu and Easy Eye only grew. For years, the couple had struggled with fertility. Countless doctor's visits, endless disappointment, and the relentless pressure from Kalu's mother, Mama Ibib, who wanted a grandchild at all costs. It was during a family dinner at their home that the cracks began to show more starkly. Mama Ibib arrived that evening in a swirl of regal fabrics. She barely acknowledged Ezzy's warm welcome, choosing instead to follow her son into the living room where a large spread of dishes awaited them on the table. Easy Eye, what took you so long to serve the meal? Mama Ibib snapped, although Easy Eye had been perfectly punctual. Tari quietly placed a tray of drinks on the table. Kalu looked up only to note her presence and then returned to fiddling with his phone. As the dinner progressed, Mama Ibib began her usual remarks. So, Kalu, she said, pursing her lips, have you given more thought to seeing another specialist? Perhaps in the village, there are herbs that could help Easy Eye. Mother, Kalu interrupted flatly, we've tried enough. The problem is that Ezzy's body just refuses to cooperate. He tapped his spoon against his glass, chuckling as though sharing a private joke. I mean, how long can I wait for an heir? At this point, maybe I need to find someone more fruitful. Ezzy's heart pounded, her cheeks burned with shame. She lowered her gaze to her plate. Mama Ibib clicked her tongue. You shouldn't say that in front of her, my son. Why not? Everyone knows, Kalu continued, undeterred. We all know she can't. He didn't finish his sentence. Easy Eye clenched her napkin tightly, biting her tongue to keep from crying out. After all, how many times had she tried to explain that they didn't know for certain whose fault it was? Across the table, Tari caught Ezzy's eye. She looked at her employer's wife with quiet compassion, as if she knew far more than she let on. The silent exchange lasted only a moment, yet it spoke volumes. Mama Ibib cleared her throat. This is a family matter, Kalu, she said, casting a glance at Tari. Let's not discuss it in front of strangers. Tari bowed her head. I'll clear the dishes, ma'am, she said softly, gathering plates and cutlery. She retreated to the kitchen, her expression tinged with a sadness that Easy Eye found oddly comforting. Kalu kept making snide comments throughout the meal, mocking Easy Eye for her inability to conceive. Each word landed like a hammer blow, chipping away at her fragile heart. And for the first time, Easy Eye wondered if perhaps she should leave, if maybe she deserved better. But where would she go? As the evening ended, Mama Ibib left, satisfied that she had stoked the flames of tension within the household. Tari quietly finished her chores. Easy Eye escaped to the backyard, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. If this was the life she was destined to lead, she wondered how she would ever find peace. The next few days, the rainy season arrived in full force. Dark clouds rolled over the city, and heavy downpours turned the garden into a glistening canopy of green. Easy Eye often found solace in listening to the rain. But on one particular afternoon, she stood alone on the back porch as thunder rumbled overhead, tears mingling with the raindrops that splashed on her cheeks. She couldn't face being in the house with Kalu's constant jabs. He was out again, conducting business deals or possibly meeting with questionable acquaintances, she was never sure anymore. Mama Ibib's words echoed in Ezzy's mind, reminding her that she was considered a failure in this household. Her shoulders sagged with the weight of it all. Suddenly, she felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. Turning, she saw Tari standing there, holding out a small umbrella. Madam, you'll catch cold, Tari said softly, concern etched on her face. Please come inside. Easy Eye shook her head. I just need some air. I don't want to go back in yet. Tari hesitated, then stepped forward, offering the umbrella more insistently. I can stay with you. If you'd like. Moved by Tari's kindness, Easy Eye let her eyes drift to the younger woman. Thank you, she whispered. For a moment, the two stood side by side in the light drizzle. The garden flowers seemed brighter in the rain, a reminder that life could still hold beauty in the midst of storms. Sometimes, Tari began, her voice trembling slightly, it's those who suffer quietly who have the deepest strength. I know what it's like to carry pain. Easy Eye glanced at Tari in surprise. You do? Tari nodded, her eyes distant. I lost my mother when I was young. Life forced me to grow up quickly. But I learned that the rain can wash away a lot of sorrow if you let it. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the gentle tapping of raindrops against the umbrella. For reasons Easy Eye couldn't explain, she felt a sudden surge of relief. As if, for the first time in a very long while, someone understood her sadness without judgment. I'm sorry for your loss, Easy Eye said, softly. And thank you for your kindness. Tari smiled faintly, the corners of her eyes crinkling. You don't have to thank me. You're kind to me as well. Easy Eye stared back at the house. I don't know how much longer I can endure this, she confessed. All the mocking, the blame, it's breaking me. Tari's hand tightened around the umbrella handle. You're stronger than you think, she said quietly. And sometimes, unexpected truths come out in the rain. Though Easy Eye didn't fully grasp what Tari meant, a gentle warmth bloomed in her chest. The storm would rage on, but for this moment, she felt less alone. That night, Easy Eye retired early to her bedroom, her heart heavy. She flipped through her phone absent-mindedly, contemplating messages she should send or delete. Meanwhile, Kalu was in his study, presumably working late, though Easy Eye suspected he was simply avoiding her. Close to midnight, her phone buzzed. Surprised, she lifted it to see an unknown number. A wave of apprehension washed over her, but something compelled her to answer. "Hello?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. A hesitant voice came through. "Madam Easy Eye, this is Dr. Kunnel's office. We have some important updates regarding your fertility test results. We'd like you to come in." Ezzy's stomach nodded. It had been months since she last stepped into Dr. Kunnel's clinic. She'd stopped going after Kalu refused to attend any more consultations. "Is it urgent?" she asked, her hand shaking. The caller hesitated. "Dr. Kunnel will be in town tomorrow morning. He specifically wants to see you alone." Easy Eye felt her heart flutter with both hope and dread. Could there be a breakthrough? Or more bad news? Unbeknownst to Easy Eye, Tari was passing by the slightly ajar bedroom door. She paused at the sound of Ezzy's anxious voice, catching bits of the conversation. When Easy Eye ended the call, she let out a shaky breath and placed the phone on her bedside table. Tari saw Easy Eye bury her face in her hands. A quiet sob escaped her. Torn between wanting to comfort her and respecting her privacy, Tari lingered in the hallway, her mind spinning with questions. Who is Dr. Kunnel? And what secret did these test results hold? Sleep eluded Easy Eye that night. She replayed every moment of the fertility tests, from invasive procedures to silent heartbreak. Could this call be a sign that something had changed? She shivered under the duvet, uncertain whether she was terrified or strangely relieved that there might still be more to the story than anyone, Kalu, Mama Abub, or even she knew. The next morning, Easy Eye woke up with dark circles under her eyes. She dressed quietly, intent on heading to Dr. Kunnel's clinic without drawing Kalu's attention. He had already left for a business meeting, which was a small relief. Tari offered to accompany Easy Eye to the clinic, but Easy Eye gently declined. "I'll be all right," she insisted. "I'll only be gone an hour or two." Meanwhile, Kalu was absorbed in his own agenda. He had decided to meet Tari outside the house that afternoon, under the pretense of running errands. Over the past few days, he'd noticed her youthful grace and found himself drawn to her, though he kept his intentions hidden beneath a veneer of casual conversation. Around noon, Kalu parked his car near a small cafe on a quieter side of town. Tari arrived on foot, wearing a simple gown, her eyes betraying nervousness. She had no idea why her employer wanted to meet her in private. All he'd said was, "I have some errands for you. Meet me at this address." "Thank you for coming," Kalu said, opening the passenger door for her. He flashed a disarming smile that Tari found unsettling. "What did you need me to do?" she asked, hands folded in her lap as she settled in. He smirked and started the car. "Just drive with me for a bit," he replied. "We'll talk." As they drove, Kalu spoke grandly of his successes in business, boasting about deals and wealth. He flattered Tari, commenting on her beauty and poise. Though she maintained a polite demeanor, she felt uneasy. "You must be lonely," he said suddenly, eyes flicking to her. "Working for us, cooped up in that house all day." She hesitated. I'm just grateful for the job, sir," she finally said. Kalu let out a soft laugh. "Call me Kalu when we're alone," he insisted. "Why be so formal?" Tari's heart pounded. She sensed the boundary lines shifting in ways she hadn't anticipated. In her mind, she replayed Ezzy's kindness and saw the sadness in her eyes. Guilt flared in Tari's chest at the mere suggestion of crossing lines with the husband of such a kind woman. Yet Kalu, oblivious to Tari's moral struggle, continued. He pulled the car over by a secluded spot. "Let's talk about your future," he murmured, leaning closer. "I can do a lot for you, if you're willing." Tari stiffened. "Sir. I mean, Kalu, I'm just the maid. I don't want any trouble." A cunning smile spread across his face. "No trouble at all, just business. One favor for another." Outside, the wind rustled through the trees. Inside the car, Kalu's intentions became clear. He was proposing an affair, a twisted relationship of convenience. He believed Tari to be naive, easily controlled, a stepping stone to fill his desires while Easy Eye remained barren and broken at home. Tari swallowed hard. She nodded mechanically, neither accepting nor fully rejecting. A part of her wanted to run, but another part told her this might be the only way to dig deeper into Kalu's secrets, to get closer to the truth she had come seeking. Because beneath her calm exterior, Tari harbored a secret that would soon shatter Kalu's arrogant worldview. While Kalu was out pursuing his wicked gamble, Easy Eye sat in Dr. Kunnel's private office, bracing for whatever news he had. The doctor was a tall, reserved man in his late 40s, with a reassuring smile. "Easy Eye," he began, folding his hands over the file on his desk, "thank you for coming." Her heart thudded. "It's important, right?" she said, her voice trembling. Dr. Kunnel sighed. "I've been reviewing your tests. And there's something you need to know, but I believe it would be best discussed when your husband is here." Easy Eye bit her lip. "He won't come. He's lost faith in all of this." A flicker of sympathy crossed Dr. Kunnel's face. "I see. Well, let me just say, for now, that I suspect the problem may not be what you think. I need to conduct a few more tests, though. Would you be willing?" Though anxiety twisted in her gut, Easy Eye nodded. "Yes, if it helps." Leaving the clinic with a swirl of emotions, Easy Eye returned home to find the house empty. She went to her bedroom, only to discover a corner of her old trunk, the one where she kept a secret journal, "Askew." Alarmed, she quickly opened it. Her journal had been moved. Tari had found it earlier while cleaning, curious about Ezzy's life after seeing her constant sadness. The journal revealed Ezzy's entire fertility journey, the doctor visits, the IVF attempts, the silent heartbreak. It also contained deeply personal entries about a stillbirth Easy Eye had suffered years ago, a moment she never told Kalu about because by that time he had grown distant. Easy Eye sank onto the bed, the journal clutched to her chest. She thought about confronting Tari, but something in her gut told her the maid wouldn't use the information to harm her. Still, the invasion left her shaken. She flipped through the pages, recalling the painful memories. Her handwriting in many entries trembled off the lines, blurred by tears. The account of her stillbirth haunted her still. She'd told no one but Dr. Kunnel. Not even Mama Ibube knew. "I'm living in a lonely prison," one entry read. "Kalu mocks me daily, and I have no one to turn to. Yet I dream of a day I'll hold a child in my arms. I dream of a day I'll feel sunlight again." Easy Eye pressed her lips together to stifle a sob. She was exhausted by the weight of her hidden pain. Yet, deep inside, a small flame of resilience refused to be extinguished. She closed the journal, locking it away once more, vowing that one day she would find a way to free herself, no matter how impossible it seemed. Ezzy's world shattered one afternoon when she entered the living room to find Kalu making a grand announcement over the phone. Freshly returned from a business meeting, he was beaming as if he'd just clinched the biggest deal of his life. "Yes, my dear friends," Kalu proclaimed, pacing around with the phone glued to his ear. "We'll have a baby shower next month. You're all invited. My family is about to get bigger." Easy Eye froze in the doorway, her heart pounding. Her thoughts spun, a baby shower? There had been no doctor's confirmation of a pregnancy, certainly not hers. So whose? As soon as Kalu ended the call, Easy Eye stepped forward. "What was that about?" she demanded. "How dare you invite people to a baby shower? We aren't expecting any child." A smug grin spread across Kalu's face. Ah, well, we aren't. I am. There's a difference, my dear. Confusion and dread churned in Ezzy's stomach. What do you mean? I've found someone who can give me what you can't, he said matter-of-factly. She's expecting my child, so I'm throwing a party to celebrate. Oh, and you'll help with the preparations, of course. The room spun. Easy Eye gripped the back of a chair for support. She could hardly form words. Who is she? Kalu shrugged. That doesn't matter. But don't worry, you'll meet her soon enough. Ezzy's lips trembled. I won't be part of this, she said in a near whisper, tears brimming in her eyes. I won't stand here and watch you humiliate me. Kalu rolled his eyes. Look, if you don't like it, there's the door. But remember, without me, you have nothing. At that moment, Tari appeared in the hallway, unseen by Kalu. She overheard every word. The gravity of the situation settled in her chest, fueling her resolve. Easy Eye stormed to the bedroom, leaving Kalu behind in the living room, triumphantly making more calls to friends. 2 days later, invitations to the baby shower were circulating among Kalu's business associates and even some gossip blogs. Easy Eye, shame burning in her veins, simply packed a small bag and walked out the front door one evening. Tari, sensing Ezzy's desperation, went after her. Ma'am, wait! Tari caught up with Easy Eye outside the gate. Where will you go? Easy Eye shook her head, tears pouring down her cheeks. I don't know, Tari. I can't stay and watch him celebrate another woman bearing his child. Please don't leave yet, Tari said, her eyes flickering with urgency. There's something you need to know, about Kalu, about everything. Yet Easy Eye, overwhelmed with heartbreak, gently pushed Tari's hand away and vanished into the night. Little did she know that events were already in motion that would change her life forever, and that Tari held the key to it all. The morning after Ezzy's departure, Mama Ibube paid a surprise visit. She arrived in her usual flurry of complaints and criticisms, demanding to see her son and her worthless daughter-in-law. When she discovered Easy Eye wasn't there, her eyes narrowed with suspicion. Where is my son's wife? Mama Ibube questioned, arms folded. Tari, busy in the hallway, hesitated. She bowed respectfully. Madame Easy Eye left the house last night. I'm not sure where she went. Mama Ibube let out a disdainful hiss. Good riddance. If she can't provide an heir, what use is she? She removed her shawl and tossed it onto a chair. If she doesn't return, Kalu can finally marry a woman who will bear him children. Tari bit her tongue, continuing her work without comment. Mama Ibube eyed her up and down. You, maid, she said sharply. Fetch me a glass of water. Tari complied. As she placed the glass on the table before Mama Ibube, something caught the older woman's eye. On a nearby side table, partially hidden under a magazine, was an old black and white photograph. Mama Ibube reached for it, curiosity piqued. She froze at what she saw, a younger version of herself and Kalu's father, smiling in front of a rural home. Standing between them was a young girl, someone Mama Ibube didn't recognize immediately, or rather, didn't want to recognize. The child's features were faint but familiar. Where did this come from? Mama Ibube demanded, her voice trembling. Tari entered the room just then, noticing the photograph in Mama Ibube's hand. Her stomach lurched. It's mine, Tari admitted in a near whisper. Mama Ibube's eyes widened. How is this possible? This photo was taken decades ago, she pointed at the man. That's my husband. And you? Her voice quivered with shock and anger. Why do you have this? Tari took a deep breath, bracing herself. She could see Mama Ibube connecting the dots, but the older woman fought the obvious conclusion. Tari's lips parted, but she had no chance to explain before Mama Ibube's eyes filled with rage. You dare bring such filth into this home? Mama Ibib hurled the photograph to the floor. Get out of my sight! Shaken, Tari picked up the photograph, her heart pounding. She knew she couldn't keep the secret much longer. But she also knew that revealing it would turn this family upside down. Mama Ibib stood over her, eyes blazing with fury, but behind that anger lay the seed of terror. Could it be that this maid was the living proof of her husband's hidden past? That evening, Kalu returned home to a furious mother pacing in the living room. He looked around, perplexed. Mother, what's going on? He asked. Why are you so agitated? Mama Ibib clenched her fists. Show me where that maid is. I want her out of this house immediately. Kalu raised an eyebrow. Tari? Why do you care about her? She's useful here, and useful to me. Mama Ibib shook her head vehemently. She's no ordinary maid. She has a photograph of your father and me when we were still young. She must be some scammer, trying to blackmail us. A wave of confusion swept over Kalu. He had grown fond of Tari in a twisted way. She was his easy escape from Ezzy's failures. The possibility that she might be scamming him enraged him too, but he also felt strangely protective of her. Tari appeared in the doorway, her expression grim. She held the photograph in her hand, no longer wishing to hide. Looking at both Kalu and Mama Ibib, she squared her shoulders. I am not a scammer, Tari said quietly. That man in the photo, your husband, Ma, is my father, too. Silence fell like a hammer. Kalu's eyes widened, flicking between Tari and the photograph. Impossible, Mama Ibib whispered, stepping back. He never had another child. He would have told me. Tari swallowed. He abandoned my mother before I was born. She was left in the village, humiliated. We grew up with almost nothing. Kalu stared, stunned. All this time, he had been toying with the idea of an affair with a woman who was, in fact, his half-sister. You're lying! Kalu finally roared. My father was, he wouldn't do that. But even as he shouted, Kalu's mind spun with memories, rumors he'd overheard as a child about his father traveling to certain villages, a hush-hush scandal that had never been clarified. Mama Ibib crumpled onto the couch, tears welling in her eyes, part shock and part fury. You planned this, she spat at Tari, didn't you? You came here to destroy us? Tari shook her head. No. I came to find out the truth, to see why my father, your husband, left us. And I ended up working here as a maid because I needed the job. I had no idea initially you were the same family, not until I saw old photos of your husband in the house. Then I realized the truth. Kalu, reeling, ran his hands through his hair. So, you're my sister. A bitter laugh escaped Tari's lips. Half-sister. And you've been trying to take advantage of me for weeks. Her voice trembled with both anger and disgust. Had I not suspected the connection early on, I could have fallen victim to your manipulations. The air hung thick with betrayal and shock. Mama Ibib, face streaked with tears, suddenly turned her anger onto Kalu. You filthy fool. You brought her in, started parading her around. This is your doing. Kalu glared back. Don't blame me for his sins. If father had kept it in his pants, none of this would be happening. And you, did you push him away so badly he found comfort elsewhere? Tari flinched at the harsh words. This family was clearly more broken than she ever imagined. As mother and son continued to argue, Tari quietly slipped away to her room, photograph clutched tightly against her chest. The truth was out now, and the illusions Kalu held about himself and his family began to crumble. While the household was engulfed in the scandal of Tari's paternity, Easy Eye quietly returned from another round of medical tests at Dr. Kunnel's office. She hadn't gone home yet, not after hearing about Kalu's baby shower. Instead, she stayed in a small guest house near the clinic, thanks to Dr. Kunnel's discreet arrangement. Late that evening, Dr. Kunnel asked to see Easy Eye one final time before he left town again. Nervous, she sat in his office, waiting for him to speak. "I have the full results," Dr. Connell said, sliding a manila folder across his desk. "It seems that your reproductive health is intact. In fact, you should be able to conceive naturally or with minimal help." Ezzy's eyes widened. "But, we tried so many times. Kalu, and I never got pregnant." Dr. Connell nodded sympathetically. "According to these tests, your husband's sperm count is severely low, practically infertile." He paused to let the information sink in. "I have the results of his test from the last time he agreed to come. He might not be aware of the severity because he stopped participating in consultations." It felt like a punch in the gut. All these years, Easy Eye had been blamed, mocked, scorned, yet the reality was that Kalu was the one facing infertility. Ezzy's thoughts spun wildly. "He was the problem all along," she murmured, tears pooling in her eyes. Dr. Connell reached across the desk to gently squeeze her hand. "I'm sorry you had to endure so much. But you have your proof now." With trembling hands, Easy Eye clutched the folder. Anger, relief, and heartache warred within her chest. She had endured endless ridicule from Kalu, Mama Ibub, and even society at large. Now she had undeniable proof that she wasn't the one who couldn't conceive. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what to do next, but thank you for showing me the truth." Dr. Connell met her gaze kindly. "You deserve happiness, Easy Eye. Whatever path you choose now, may it be one that finally brings you peace." Easy Eye walked out of the clinic feeling as though the ground beneath her feet had shifted forever. She had to confront Kalu, had to. Yet, after all she had been through, she no longer owed him any consideration. She had spent years living in self-blame. It was time for her to decide her own destiny. Easy Eye returned home at dawn, the sky awash with pale pink light. She felt a mixture of dread and determination. Clutching the file with the test results, she let herself in quietly. To her surprise, the living room lights were on, and the house was in disarray. Inside, she found Kalu pacing frantically. He looked up in shock when he saw her. "Where have you been?" he demanded, eyes bloodshot. "You disappear for days and then come waltzing back in?" Easy Eye squared her shoulders, holding out the folder. "I've been with Dr. Connell. Here are the real fertility test results." "Your results?" Suspicion crossed Kalu's features. He snatched the folder, scanning through the papers. His face blanched. "This is nonsense," he spat. "A lie. You and that doctor must have faked this." Ezzy's voice trembled with building fury. "Do you think I'd go through years of IVF failures, shame, and heartbreak, just to fake a report now?" His denial came swiftly. "I don't believe this. I've gotten someone else pregnant, haven't I? That means I can father a child." Easy Eye glared at him, fists clenched. "Oh, yes, the great baby shower. The big announcement. Have you confirmed the pregnancy? Are you certain the baby is even yours? Or is it just another of your delusions?" Kalu hurled the folder to the ground. "Stop it!" He advanced on Easy Eye, rage twisting his features. "You have no right." His voice was cut off by the sound of footsteps behind them. Tari emerged, her face drawn with concern. She, too, had stayed up all night, reeling from the revelation about her parentage. "You two should stop fighting," Tari pleaded softly. Kalu whirled on Tari. You did this to us somehow. You're a curse." Tari's eyes filled with tears. "I did nothing. You're the one who..." But before she could finish, Kalu lunged and shoved Easy Eye aside, grabbing Tari by the arm. "Get out of my house," he yelled. "Both of you, go!" "I don't need either of you. I'm the man of this house, and I decide who stays." Easy Eye, stunned and bruised from the shove, scrambled to her feet. Something within her snapped. She'd had enough of his brutality, his lies. She marched up to him, voice trembling. "No, Kalu. You get out." She looked around at the lavish furniture, the expensive decor. "You can keep all of this. I'm taking my freedom." Snatching the test result folder from the floor, Easy Eye turned to Tari, gently taking her by the hand. "Come on," she said. "We're leaving. There's nothing left for us here." Tari hesitated, tears rolling down her cheeks, but she nodded. Before Kalu could say another word, both women walked out into the cold dawn air, leaving him behind in the hollow shell of a home that had once been their prison. Out in the early morning light, Easy Eye and Tari stood by the gate, uncertain of their next steps. Tari's eyes brimmed with conflicting emotions, relief, fear, and a trace of triumph. Easy Eye felt raw pain but also liberation. She was no longer shackled by Kalu's deception. Tari inhaled deeply, turning to Easy Eye. "Madam, I have something else I need to show you," she said, voice trembling. She retrieved her phone from her pocket. "While Kalu was trying to lure me, I recorded certain conversations. And I also have screenshots of him bragging about forging the pregnancy to boost his image among his business partners." Ezzy's eyes widened. "You do?" Tari nodded gravely. "I hated what he was doing to you. He made me sick, the way he used you as a scapegoat. I plan to expose him, not only as an adulterer but also as someone scamming his investors." Easy Eye was taken aback. "So you were gathering evidence all along?" Tari gazed at her with an earnestness that nearly broke Ezzy's heart. "Yes. In part because I suspected there was more to this family than met the eye. I only realized he was my half-brother a few weeks ago. But by then, I already had enough to destroy him." Easy Eye hesitated, torn between moral outrage at Kalu's behavior and a lingering sense of guilt over destroying the man she once loved. But then she thought of the years of abuse, the blame, and the cruelty. She clenched her fists. "Do it," she finally said, swallowing hard. "Release it all. Let the world see who he really is." Tari wasted no time. She created an anonymous social media account and posted clips of Kalu bragging about scamming investors, forging pregnancy announcements to inflate his perceived success, and mocking Ezzy's fertility struggles. Within hours, the videos went viral. The scandal spread like wildfire, and Kalu's business partners swiftly distanced themselves from him. Stocks in his company plummeted. The media hounded him, demanding explanations. Kalu found himself cornered, frantic, and alone in a mansion that now felt more like a ghost town than a home. Meanwhile, Easy Eye and Tari took refuge in a modest apartment that Dr. Kunnel helped secure temporarily. They watched from a distance as Kalu's world crumbled under the weight of his own lies. "He'll try to retaliate," Easy Eye said, pacing anxiously. "He won't go down without a fight." Tari placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let him. The truth is on our side." Easy Eye felt tears prick at her eyes, tears of relief, sorrow, and a strange exhilaration. For once, she wasn't the victim. She was part of the reckoning. And she had Tari by her side, a woman who had once been a mere maid but turned out to be a fierce, supportive ally, and Kalu's half-sister. Fate had a dark sense of humor, indeed. As the scandal exploded, Mama Ibub could not escape the fallout. She found herself bombarded by calls from relatives and close friends, all demanding an explanation for the shocking revelations about her son. How could Kalu claim to be expecting a child with someone, only to be exposed for faking it? And who was this mysterious young maid claiming to be the illegitimate daughter of her husband? Everywhere Mama Ibub turned, she felt the weight of judgment. Friends whispered behind her back, distant cousins called to gloat or pry. Her regal demeanor, once unshakable, began to crumble under the relentless scrutiny. One afternoon, she gathered the courage to call Easy Eye. Easy Eye was sitting in her new apartment, sipping tea and trying to keep herself from collapsing under the emotional strain. When her phone buzzed and she saw Mama Ibub's name, she hesitated. But a small voice told her to pick up. "Hello, Mama Ibub," Easy Eye said cautiously. The older woman's voice cracked on the other end. Easy, my child. I don't know what to do. Easy closed her eyes, tears threatening. This was the same woman who had ridiculed her for years, calling her barren and a burden. Yet, in her voice now was genuine remorse. Mama Abub, I'm not your child anymore, Easy murmured, struggling to keep her composure. A pained sob came through the line. I know, Mama Abub said, I know you have no reason to help me. But everything is falling apart. Kalu has lost almost all his investors. People are laughing at us, shaming our family. Ezzy's fingers tightened around the phone. You only care about your family name and your reputation, she said, bitterness creeping into her tone. Where was that concern when I was the one being shamed? Silence stretched. Then Mama Abub spoke again, her voice trembling with uncharacteristic humility. I'm sorry, Easy. I truly am. I can't change the past. I was blind, or maybe I just didn't want to see. But you were the only woman who had true dignity in our household. At that, Easy felt a knot in her throat. It's too late for apologies, Mama Abub. I've moved on. The older woman's sobs intensified. Please, if you see it in your heart, help me talk to Kalu. He won't listen to me anymore. He's locked himself away, and I'm worried. Easy swallowed hard. She thought of all the pain Kalu had caused her, the emotional scars, the cruelty. Yet she also remembered the young man she once fell in love with, years before the bitterness set in. Compassion and hurt warred within her. I can't promise anything, she said quietly. But I'll think about it. They ended the call. Easy set her phone aside, heart pounding. Part of her wanted to bury Kalu and Mama Abub under the ruins of their own making. Another part remembered that she was not raised to seek vengeance. She glanced at Tari, who had been quietly listening from across the room. I heard everything, Tari said. Sometimes letting go is the biggest victory. Sometimes it's confronting them. Easy exhaled slowly. I just need more time to decide. But little did she know, time was rapidly running out for Kalu, who was sliding dangerously into his own personal abyss. Days turned into a whirlwind of legal threats and media coverage. Kalu tried to sue for defamation, but the evidence Tari leaked was overwhelmingly authentic. Business partners withdrew, severing ties. His finances were in shambles. Meanwhile, Easy found solace in focusing on her health. She visited Dr. Kunnel, who arranged a follow-up exam. During one routine checkup, she felt oddly fatigued, experiencing unusual bouts of dizziness. Dr. Kunnel ran a few tests, more out of caution than suspicion. When the results came back, Easy was stunned to silence. She was pregnant. This can't be, Easy whispered, tears filling her eyes. All these years, we tried. Dr. Kunnel smiled kindly. Sometimes stress and a toxic environment can hamper fertility. It's possible that after distancing yourself from Kalu, your body found it easier to conceive. Of course, I can't say for certain, but the results are clear, you're going to be a mother. Easy felt a flurry of emotions, joy, fear, disbelief. Then another truth sank in. But I haven't been with Kalu in months, she said quietly. She looked at Dr. Kunnel, remembering the closeness they'd shared over time. There had been a day, clouded by tears and vulnerability, when Dr. Kunnel comforted her. They had formed a bond that went beyond patient and doctor. In her darkest hour, they found solace in each other, something she had once regretted but now realized was a lifeline. Yes, Dr. Kunnel confirmed softly, reading the unspoken question in her eyes. If you recall, that evening. It seems this is the result. A complex wave of relief and guilt washed over Easy. She realized the baby she carried had nothing to do with Kalu. For the first time, she felt a spark of genuine hope. She could become a mother, free from the chains of a loveless marriage. Yet she was also terrified. Dr. Kalu squeezed her hand, offering reassurance. I'll support you in whatever you decide. You're not alone. Easy Eye clutched her abdomen, tears streaming down her face. For so long, she had been labeled barren, worthless. And now, this miracle was growing inside her. She thought of Kalu's cruelty, Mama Abub's scorn, and even Tari's unwavering support. How would they react? She wondered. But one thing was certain, her life would never be the same again. Back at the once grand mansion, Kalu spiraled into despair. The front yard was littered with final notices from the bank and eviction warnings. He had taken out massive loans against the house and his remaining assets to maintain an image of wealth, but now the tide was turning. He spent his days locked in his study, whiskey bottle at his side, ignoring calls from his lawyers. Mama Abub tried to speak with him, but he hurled curses at her. The staff, once numerous, were all gone, unpaid and tired of his insults. One fateful afternoon, a group of business associates he once courted arrived, demanding a meeting. Kalu, disheveled and reeking of alcohol, let them in. They spelled out the grim reality: they were terminating their contracts with him entirely. His shares were worthless. Lawsuits loomed if he didn't repay what he owed. I just need more time, Kalu pleaded, wiping sweat from his brow. I have new ventures lined up. But they shook their heads. Your reputation is destroyed. Nobody will invest in a fraud. They left, leaving Kalu trembling with fury and self-pity. An hour later, a letter arrived, announcing foreclosure on the mansion. Kalu stared at the piece of paper, numb. His mother walked in, her face pale. We're losing the house, she whispered. Where will we go? Kalu sank to the floor. I don't know, he muttered, burying his face in his hands. All that boasting, the baby shower, the lies, everything had come full circle. Even the woman Kalu had claimed was pregnant with his child turned out to be a con artist he'd paid to go along with his grand charade. She vanished once the money dried up, leaving Kalu in a deeper pit of humiliation. Now, he had nothing, no wife, no child, no family legacy to cling to. I've lost everything, he groaned, eyes hollow with regret. Mama Abub stood over him, tears sliding down her cheeks. You have me, she whispered, though her voice was tremulous. But deep down, she knew she had lost faith in her son's decisions long ago. They were united now only in defeat. Away from the crumbling mansion, Tari found a renewed sense of purpose. She had used the hush money Kalu once casually gave her to invest in a dream she'd always harbored, establishing a small foundation for abandoned girls like her, who had been cast aside by society or by their own fathers. I want to name it the Hope for Daughters Foundation, Tari explained to Easy Eye, who was visiting her new workspace. It's a place where young girls can find shelter, education, and emotional support. Easy Eye walked through the modest building, walls freshly painted and stocked with donated supplies. She felt a surge of admiration for Tari. You're doing something truly meaningful. I'm proud of you. Tari blushed lightly, a shy smile curving her lips. I just don't want anyone to go through what I did, she said. And I realize that we are more than our past. The success of Tari's foundation quickly garnered positive attention, especially when the media connected her to the scandal involving Kalu. Journalists who once chased the sensational angle began to celebrate Tari's philanthropic endeavors, painting her as a survivor rising from the ashes. Invitations to speak at community events poured in. Slowly but surely, Tari became a voice for abandoned children, an advocate who turned her painful history into a source of inspiration for others. And in the quiet moments, she remembered her mother's final words, never let them break your spirit. Standing at a podium before a small crowd of donors, Tari cleared her throat, holding back tears. We aren't defined by the families we're born into, but by the choices we make, she said, voice steady. And I choose to help others, so that no one else has to feel forgotten. The audience broke into applause. In the front row, Easy Eye watched, a tear sliding down her cheek. She placed a hand gently on her growing belly, feeling the faint flutter of life inside. If Tari could heal, Easy Eye thought, then perhaps there was hope for her, too. Weeks passed, and Ezzy's pregnancy began to show. She lived in a modest yet cozy apartment Dr. Kunnel helped secure. The news of her pregnancy eventually leaked, partly through the circle of acquaintances who remained loyal to her. The public was stunned to learn that the barren wife of Kalu was indeed expecting. Easy Eye had to navigate this new world carefully. She and Dr. Kunnel agreed not to publicly disclose he was the father just yet, respecting both professional boundaries and Ezzy's own emotional healing. Still, a certain glow surrounded her. Inspired by Tari's public efforts, Easy Eye decided to share her story, but in a different way. She began writing a book, a deeply personal account of her journey through marriage, infertility, and self-discovery. It detailed her heartbreak but also her resilience. Tentatively titled Sunlight in the Shadows, it was a raw, honest narrative that she hoped would empower other women facing similar challenges. "This is your chance to speak your truth," Dr. Kunnel encouraged her one day. "No more hiding. No more shame." Ezzy's hands shook as she typed the final chapters, recalling how she had once felt worthless because of Kalu's words. Now, she felt life stirring within her, both literally and figuratively. She had found purpose not through his validation, but through her own courage. When Easy Eye finally submitted the manuscript to a small publisher, she wasn't expecting more than a modest interest. Yet the publishers recognized the story's power and quickly offered her a deal, marketing it as a story of triumph and resilience. The press release sparked a wave of curiosity. Interviews were requested. "Are you ready for this?" Tari asked, sitting across from Easy Eye in a cafe. Easy Eye smiled, cradling her baby bump. "Yes," she said, her voice filled with an unshakable calm. "I won't let fear dictate my life anymore." And so, the once quiet wife who had been mocked as barren was now on the brink of becoming a best-selling author, a soon-to-be mother, and a beacon of hope. This was Ezzy's rise, shining brighter each day. As word of Ezzy's book spread, a major TV network reached out, offering her a primetime interview. Nervous but determined, Easy Eye prepared to face the cameras. She decided to bring Tari along, introducing her as part of her support system. The host was a well-respected journalist known for empathetic interviews. Seated in a softly lit studio, Easy Eye smoothed her dress over her bump. Tari sat beside her, posture poised. The host, a graceful woman in her 50s, smiled warmly. "Host, tonight, we have two extraordinary women who have captivated the public's attention in the wake of a scandal. Easy Eye, your story of overcoming a toxic marriage and infertility struck a chord with many. And Tari, your philanthropic work for abandoned girls has inspired countless people. Thank you both for being here." Easy Eye nodded, nerves buzzing in her stomach. "Thank you for having us." Host, Easy Eye, let's start with you. You were once the subject of public ridicule, labeled barren by your own husband. Now, not only are you pregnant, but you've written a book about your journey. How does it feel? Easy Eye inhaled, steadying herself. "Liberating," she said simply. "For years, I lived under the shadow of guilt and shame, believing I was somehow less for not conceiving. But it turns out the issue wasn't with me. Despite everything, I found the strength to stand up for myself. And I learned that truth has a way of surfacing." Host, and you, Tari, you were once a maid in that same household, but revealed to be Kalu's half-sister. What made you decide to open a foundation? Tari's eyes glistened. "I saw too many girls, especially in rural areas, abandoned because of complicated family situations. I wanted to be a voice for them, a safe place so they wouldn't feel alone." The conversation ebbed and flowed, touching on deeper themes of betrayal, resilience, and compassion. Easy Eye and Tari spoke without bitterness. They acknowledged their pain but emphasized how they had grown because of it. Near the end, the host leaned forward gently. "What would you say to those watching who feel trapped in similar situations?" Easy Eye and Tari exchanged a look. Easy Eye spoke first. "You're never as trapped as you think you are. The hardest step is always the first one, saying, I deserve better. Once you do that, everything changes. Host, thank you both. It's been an honor to share your story. As the cameras cut and the closing credits rolled, applause echoed through the studio. Easy Eye felt a weight lifting off her chest. She had bared her soul to the world, but in doing so, she realized she had given others permission to find their own strength. Beside her, Tari beamed with quiet pride, knowing that they had turned a tale of deceit and abandonment into a message of hope and resilience. While Easy Eye and Tari's names graced headlines in a positive light, Kalu lurked on the periphery. Evicted from his mansion, strapped for cash, he lived in a run-down apartment. Most of his friends vanished once his money dried up. His mother, Mama Abub, had gone to stay with a distant cousin, too ashamed to face the public eye. Kalu spent his days drinking and scrolling through social media, watching Easy Eye and Tari's interviews. He seethed with a toxic brew of regret, jealousy, and bitterness. Late one night, he found a clip of Easy Eye on national TV discussing the fertility revelations. She looked radiant, her pregnant belly prominent. He let out a bitter laugh. So, she can conceive after all, but not with me. The truth stung more deeply than he'd ever admit. She had found happiness, true happiness, without him. You'll regret this, he muttered, talking to the screen as if Easy Eye could hear him. One day, you'll realize you still need me. But even as he spoke those words, a part of him knew it was a lie. Easy Eye had moved on, found a life of her own. No one needed him anymore. Not the business world he once dominated, nor the mother who was too disgusted to stay by his side, nor the half-sister he had once tried to seduce. He threw the phone across the room. It crashed against the wall, screen splintering, leaving him in silence. Alone in the darkness, Kalu faced the bitter truth: his downfall was nobody's fault but his own. Weeks passed, and he scraped by doing menial tasks for a fraction of his former salary. Sometimes, on sleepless nights, he wandered the streets, hoping to catch a glimpse of Easy Eye or Tari. But they were nowhere to be found. They had left him behind, stepping into the light, while he remained in the shadows, haunted by everything he had lost. A year later, the setting sun bathed the small village cemetery in soft, golden light. Easy Eye and Tari walked side by side along the narrow path. In Ezzy's arms was a baby, her little one cooing and gurgling, curious eyes taking in the world. They stopped at a modest gravestone. Tari's mother had been laid to rest here many years ago. It was her final resting place, a simple marker with her name etched in loving memory. Gently, Easy Eye handed the baby to Tari, then knelt before the gravestone. Tari joined her, the baby nestled in her arms. A hush fell over them. Mama, Tari whispered, tears brimming in her eyes, I did it. I'm not forgotten, and neither are you. I found a sister in Easy Eye, even though our father was never there for us. Ezzy's voice trembled with emotion. We survived, Mama. Even if we never knew each other well, we made it through the storm. And we're here now, to honor you. A gentle breeze passed, rustling the leaves overhead. It felt almost like a blessing, a confirmation that healing had taken root. Tari smiled through her tears, pressing a soft kiss to the baby's forehead. We named her Abub, after Kalu's mother, but also because it means glory. We wanted to reclaim that name, turn it into something good and hopeful. Easy Eye nodded. She's a symbol of new beginnings. They stayed there for a while, reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had led them here: a cruel husband, a secret half-sister, a shocking fertility twist, and an ultimate journey from darkness to light. Both women had found solace in each other's strength and in the new life cradled gently between them. When they finally rose to leave, the sun had dipped lower, painting the sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. Tari held baby Abub while Easy Eye gently placed a small bouquet of flowers on the grave. We did it, Mama, Tari whispered once more, her voice carrying on the breeze. We found our way home. Hand in hand, Easy Eye and Tari walked back through the cemetery gate, hearts lighter, futures bright. The cycle of pain had ended, replaced by a circle of love. And in that moment, they both knew, despite every hardship, they had finally, truly come full circle. The end.